case I forget and have to start again later. Um, um, I I want to get through some housekeeping first, and then we can proceed. So uh, on our, hmm, let me share my screen with you. There we go. On our Google Classroom on the stream section, right? This is the stream section. You will see there's a little comment I posted here. It says, please post your research question here on this thread, right? So let me just update that to show it doesn't show. Okay, 1 second. It asks, I've asked you to post your research question on the Classroom stream. You can see some people have already done so. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a look at it, and after we discuss it, you may want to change your research question, which you can do. From your end, you can go into Google Classroom and click on edit your comment, and you can edit your comments, because you may want to change, you may not want to change, but if you do, then that's fine. Okay, so please post your research question there for me, right? The other thing I wanted to talk to you now, if you've noticed on Google Classroom also, let me just go back. I've shown you there's there we go, a revised assessment schedule. You can see paragraph A, creative 10%, right? Submission only. So if you gave me your paragraph, your creative paragraph on the 9th or before the 9th, then you receive 10%. The B paragraph is also 10%. Now this one is due, first submission was due 9th of April, and then we're going to discuss about the referencing and some formatting issues. You have to resubmit that paragraph on the or before the 26th of April to my email address, right? Which you should probably know by now. And you're going to fix any referencing issues or any formatting issues that you may have. And after today's lecture, you may want to clean it up a bit and then resubmit, right? Then that's due on the 26th of April. Then the research paper, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the research paper, which is due at the end of May. We are going to conduct your research question. You're going to create a little research paper on it and submit that as your term research paper. So we won't have a midterm this semester, but your term research paper will count for the grade that your midterm paper would. So it is very important. Now, in the classwork section, you will notice I have uploaded a research paper that says research paper quantitative. This is an example for you to follow when we are looking at the research paper. This is the exact format that we are going to follow in terms of the headings and what we are going to be doing. And I'm going to talk you through the whole research paper. We're going to develop it section by section or sections by section every week as we go, right? And then also today we're going to talk about academic writing. What is academic writing? I've also put up the PDF for you. So this week I'd like you to work through all of your PDFs that I've uploaded and have a read through it. The research paper, you don't need to read through it in detail so that you understand everything. It may be difficult for you to understand all of it, but to get the basic gist of what we are going to be doing, you should have a skim through the research paper, right? And then the academic writing, you should read through that carefully. It will give you some ideas, okay, as to what we're going to be doing. Now, so I'm hoping that you guys can see this. So as you can see, today we're going to be dealing with the introduction and literature review section, right? The first part of your research paper. So you're going to basically introduce your topic, tell us about your topic and why it's important, why you're researching it, what previous people have said, right? And when you talk about what previous people have said, previous researchers or previous articles and so on and so on, you have to reference. Please don't forget the referencing, right? So you have to say where you found that information. So if you say drugs are bad, who said drugs are bad? Which researcher said drugs are bad? So you have to give us the researcher's name in the text like we have here, right? Like you can see, for example, they said the development of an empirically based standardized Likert type writing apprehension test by who? Daly and Miller, right? 1975, or they talk about other people and like Hathaway, Masney, Foxhall. You are going to use whoever said whatever about your topic previously, right? So we are going to start with this section first, right? The introduction. Let's keep our introductions to a page, right? Maximum. Next, we're going to work on method. So we are going to design how. So we're going to look at the people that are going to be involved in your research. Now we want to limit the number of participants. So I was thinking around 10 people should be maximum. So there should be 10 people in your circle that you know or that you trust, that you can talk to or survey or interview, right? So I'm hoping that you have at least 10 people, family members, very close friends. I don't want you to go out into the community or put yourself at risk or put other people at risk, just the people in your immediate circle. And please remember to maintain social distancing, etc., right? So under participants, you're going to look at a few things. You're going to interview people or ask them to take a survey, or you're going to email your questionnaire to 10 people and ask them to fill it in for you, and so on, right? Under participants. So this is a method section where we describe the people involved in the study and the instruments. Are you going to interview them? Are you going to ask them to do a questionnaire? And what kind of measuring tool will you use? Right? You made your own questionnaire and so on and so on. So these guys are describing how they conducted their research. Now, procedures means how you went about doing it. So did you schedule a coffee time and have coffee with the person, or did you interview them on campus, or did you email them, or did you text them the questions and so on and so on, right? What was your procedure? Then the results, what did you find? Now here, we don't discuss what we found, we just state what we found, right? In the results section. There's no discussion here, just what you found. And then in the next section, which is the discussion section, then we talk about what we found, right? Don't worry about this. This has a lot of data and so on. You are not going to have so much data. Our idea is just to go through the research paper so that you know how to do one. Later, when you, the psychology students, I think Conrad will take you for research methods. You'll go into greater detail. So this won't come as a surprise to you. You'll know what you're looking at. Communication students, you guys as well. The theology students, Professor Paulus will do something with you theology-wise. They follow a slightly different style of research, but nevertheless, you still have to, motivate why you think the way you do. So the discussion section will discuss, you will discuss your results. So if you, for example, you did a survey, right? And your research question was, do university students prefer Cadbury's chocolate to Beacon chocolate? Or you can say, do university students prefer Cadbury's chocolate or Beacon chocolate, right? And then you can ask 10 people for their choices, right? Do you prefer Cadbury's or Beacon, A or B, right? I'm giving a very simple example, but also it's a valid example. So here you will, let's say you got 7 people chose Cadbury and 3 people chose Beacon, right? So you would discuss your results. Why do you think 7 students preferred Cadbury's chocolate over Beacon chocolate, and so on? So here you would discuss your results and what you found. And then later on, after that, you put in your conclusion of your paper and then your references. Now, this is very important. Your references are what, remember in the literature review section, the introduction and literature review section, you wrote about what other people have said about your topic. So you are going to, here, you're going to state who said that, right? All the references of the previous research, you're going to put it here. There's, you can, as you can see, you're going to follow this example exactly, right? As I have given you before in the other section on your Google Classroom, under the classwork section, for sources and finding information, and for APA, you're going to follow that exact same style, right? Please do not change anything in the referencing section. You must copy that verbatim, right? So the font size, everything has to be exactly the same. It tells you all of that information in the handouts that are given, okay? So I would like you to fix your paragraphs and resubmit them by the 26th, right? So some formatting errors, there were some formatting mistakes, and I want you to use, if you have included any references in your paragraph for the academic paragraph, I want you to look at the referencing handout that I gave you that is on the Google Classroom. Please follow that explicitly, right? When you put your references in the text and at the end of your text, if you have any, right? If you don't, that's fine at this stage. Just make sure you're formatting, there are no spaces. It's a block paragraph format. If you did include references in the text, and at the end, you should reference. And also, please don't forget your cover page with your name and so on. It's at the end of your module outline. You'll find your cover page there. You can cut and paste and send it to me, okay? So far, do we have any questions? I'm trying to go through this pretty quickly because after this, I would like you to maybe, if possible, get into your private Zoom with your writing buddies and discuss some things. If you have any questions, you can just, put your hand up on the Zoom thing, and I will entertain your question. Okay. Right. Now, for your research questions. Now, I've seen some of the research questions, or some of you posted already. Some of them look very interesting. You may want to perhaps alter your research question, right? We want to go through the whole research paper, but due to time constraints, we want to choose something simple, right? Something easy to measure. Now, some people have chosen some topics. How will you measure this? What is your plan for measuring your research question, right? So for like the example I gave you before, right? If you chose, what's Tia, what's a popular shampoo, hair shampoo in South Africa? What's a popular hair shampoo?
Head and Shoulders.
Head and Shoulders. Give me another one. Head and Shoulders, and come on, nobody else?
Is wait, yeah, is it L'Oreal or what?
L'Oreal.
L'Oreal, I don't know.
Okay, is that popular in South Africa? Okay, so Head and Shoulders and
Organics.
was that?
Organics.
Who said that?
Organics.
Oh, organics. Okay, organics. So you have like, so far we've mentioned 3 brands, right? So you have 3 brands. Now let's say you want to measure which of those brands is the most popular, and you also want to find out why, right? So you would ask 10 people to state their preferences. Then you would ask them why as an open-ended question, you could ask them, why do you prefer this particular brand? Or you can construct your questionnaire in such a way that do you prefer this brand based on price, convenience, quality, um, environmental impact? Why do you prefer this particular brand, right? So you can ascertain that easily. But please don't choose a research topic that is difficult to evaluate, because you won't, it will be tough to evaluate and measure some research questions, right? So when you are discussing with your research group, I'm also going to comment on some of your topics here. You need to figure out how you plan to measure your research question, right? Do you plan to ask some people some questions? Remember, we are looking for an experiment, right? An experiment style of question, of research question. So I'm looking at some of these questions here, like how bullet train transport can benefit people in South Africa, how colonialism has influenced Christianity, gender and education, same-sex schools, and the comparison to mixed schools. Some of the ideas are very interesting if you have time, but they are also very complicated and will require a significant amount of research work on your part. So if you want to simplify your research question to something more practical and easily measurable, just for the purposes of our class, because we have about a month to do this. So in the space of a month, you're going to have to write your introduction, write your method section, you're going to have to write your results section, discussion section, conclusion section, and you're going to have to create your questionnaire, administer your questionnaire, ask people, and get your results, put your results into your research paper. You're going to be doing this in 4 weeks, right? So we don't want to select a topic that's going to be too difficult for you to attempt initially at this stage. The whole purpose of our attempting this mini research project is for you to get a feel of how research is conducted and how complicated and complex it is. And we're going to apply minor statistics depending on your situation. So I would like to limit the number of the participants in your experiment or in your research study to 10, right? So 10 people. That will make it easy for you to calculate and for data and manipulation and so on, right? So you need to come up with a questionnaire for your research question that is going to measure, right? So when you ask your research question, it must have a measurable component. You must be looking to measure something, right? So there are two types of research, right? We're quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative looks at experimental research where you collect data. Qualitative is the other one where you are basically using interviews and in-depth interviews, yeah, to collect your data. So in other words, if you are looking at, let's say, sexual harassment at university, and you interview 3 ladies and you ask the 3 ladies in-depth questions and you record your interviews and their experiences and so on, and then you put that together to make your research paper, that is qualitative, okay? But if you interview like 100 ladies on the campus and ask them about their ask them to fill out a questionnaire about their experiences and so on and so on, and then you collect all the data on the 100 ladies and you put it together to test a certain hypothesis or to test a certain research question, then that is quantitative. And then you'll have statistics and so on. Now, what we are going to look at this semester is both of them, but we're going to go through the quantitative paper, mainly because most of you in psych and in technically business too, and communications will be using the quantitative model. Qualitative is not very popular. The theology students, you will use the qualitative style, but that is easier for you to, how can I put this, understand. So I want you to be familiar with the quantitative aspect as well, because I think it's a field that theology needs desperately. You know, some unique aspects to look at from a quantitative perspective. Most theology is focusing on qualitative, which is basically people giving their opinions. It's not very scientific, but God's word is scientific, and you can apply the rules to that. It will come up with some interesting data and some interesting theories. So if you want to change your research question, you're welcome to do so. And I will interact with your research questions and try to give you feedback. But I will give you a couple of days for you to have a look and discuss with your friends if you want to change your topic, right? I would prefer something a little bit more practical. And if you are happy with your research question, then you should try to come up with some ways to construct a series of questions. Let's say 5 questions, right? And your 5 questions in the format of a questionnaire that you can send via email or Zoom interview if you want to as well, right? So to get the data for your study. Now, last year, when our students did this, we had some really interesting research topics, some very practical research topics, and ranging on many things from dating to student fees to our classroom and the paint work, and there was so many different aspects of the research. It was very, very interesting and fun. So your topic doesn't necessarily need to be like super serious at this stage, right? Because this is an introduction to research, and I want to show you that research is fun. It's when you read some of the articles, it looks incredibly boring, but it isn't. It's actually quite fun, and the point of research is to help our society improve, right? And through research, we can help make our society better, not necessarily, you know, bore you to tears. Okay. Now there are 3 research methods. The third one, I've told you about quantitative and qualitative. The third one is mixed methods. This is very complicated because it mixes qualitative and quantitative. And there are some researchers that feel you can't mix the two, but we will not be touching on that because at this stage, it's not necessary. So we'll look at quantitative and qualitative, okay? Any questions so far before I continue?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask. So, okay, yeah, so my research question was the one about bullet train transport and you know how bullet train transport can benefit people in South Africa. So basically that is not a research question that we should have for this research paper we are doing.
Well, look, I mean, of all the research questions, for all the people who have research questions already, you need to figure out how you are going to measure or how you are going to answer your research question, right? So if you are looking at that question, it's not phrased like a research question. It's very broad. You should narrow it down further, and it will help you when you design your question. What questions can you put in your questionnaire that you can ask people that will answer your question, right? A lot of I'm looking at your research questions now, and your research questions are a lot of your research questions are very vague. You need to zoom, zoom your research question in on a particular area, right? You have to be specific. So research question tends to understand. So for example, can it be fun when learning, Okay, let's look at this research question. How do you define fun? And what are you learning? Do you understand? So when you are approaching something from a research angle, you have to be extremely specific and precise, right? So for the bullet train transport question, benefit which people? In South Africa, there are so many different people. Benefit which income group? Who do you expect to be using bullet train transport and so on and so on? So you must focus particularly, like for example, the one on education and gender, same-sex schools and their comparison to mixed schools. What particular aspect are you comparing? How are you going to compare which mixed schools in which areas? How are you going to control certain variables? Because mixed schools in a fancy neighborhood or fancy area, high income group will be different to a low income group. So there are many things that will affect you. And then does mental health have an effect on productivity? Mental health is a very vague um, construct. What is mental health? I'm feeling depressed today because the sun is not shining. Does that mean now I have a mental health issue? Or my students attend class and they turn off their cameras and I can't see anybody, so I feel demoralized and I don't want to teach. Is that a mental health issue? Or how do we define productivity? Mm, is producing a certain amount of work considered productive? You know, it's these are all very vague. We need to focus. So the impact of COVID-19 on business, what type of business are you referring to? In general, COVID-19 means the virus, the threat of the virus, actually having the virus. What exactly about COVID-19 is impacting businesses? Okay, so from what I'm seeing, your questions are good. You have a general direction, but you need to focus on a specific area. Okay, so I'd like you to take some time this week and have a look again at your research questions, and please modify your research questions. Okay, so to a specific variable that you want to measure. Okay, like for example, has lockdown affected the purchase of petrol? Okay, you can, that's a measurable variable. You can ask 5 people, okay, how much did you spend before on petrol? And how much do you spend now on petrol? Is there increase or decrease? You can get that from your data, right? Or you can choose even simpler topics to measure, right? Has you know, about people's, it doesn't necessarily have to be, your research question doesn't necessarily have to pose a question, but it can also be stated or phrased in the form of an hypothesis that you have, right? That you want to see if it supports. Like Heidelberg College students have gained on average have gained weight over the last year. So from 2020 March to 2021 March, Heidelberg students have gotten heavier, right? So then you will ask 10 people to report, if they wish, anonymously, their weight prior to lockdown and after lockdown. And you can test from the data to see if your hypothesis is true or false. Okay, so I want you to have a look at your research questions again. If you're happy with the area you want to research, you need to think, how am I going to answer this question? What questions am I going to create so that I can ask? Okay. And then if you find you'd rather go with a simpler topic, then you can choose an easier topic to measure. Remember, the objective of our paper is for you to go through the process of writing it up, not so much you know, creating a world-class research paper. It's just to get you introduced to the process of conducting research and seeing what we do. Okay, cool. So yes, let me see, we can go on with that. All right, So for this week, please look at your research question, read the PDFs, post your research question on the thread, and then I will interact with your research questions. And please edit them so that you can, fine tune them, focus in closer on some subjects. All right. So after this meeting, if you could meet with your small group people to discuss your research questions, if you would like to do so, you can. All right.
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
In regards the academic paragraph writing,
Mhm.
You said we should submit it in before the 26th, which is next week, Monday.
Mhm.
Is it okay if one is already comfortable with what they submitted? Or should I notice that I've already submitted and I feel like I'm comfortable?
Okay, so based on what we have discussed so far, and after you have read all the information that I put up on the definition of academic writing, if you are
Yes.
comfortable with all of that and you feel that you meet those requirements, you may submit. You don't need to. Yeah, you can submit it again so that I have a record that you submitted for 26. Make sure you have your cover. Yeah, your cover page must be included for that.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
no problem. Thank you for your question. Any other questions before we wrap it up?
So say, are we to about the research questions? Should we submit it? Should we also like post it in your in our Google Classroom so that you can, I don't know, you're gonna assist us with them, or you're gonna, I don't know.
Yeah, as I
Since
stated before, on the Google Classroom, there's some students have already done it. On it says, please post your research question here on this thread. I think 7 people have already posted their research questions, so you should post your research question there. Yeah.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
I will interact with it, and then you can also edit it to change it as well. All right, we're good?
Yes, sir.
Don't feel too intimidated by the whole process, right? We're going to go through this together step by step. So step number 1, you must do the research question and get a focused research question on a specific measurable aspect, right? When you have it, post it on Google Classroom, and then I'm going to make some comments on your question so that we can work on it together. But I'll give you a couple of days to sort that out. You may want to think or change your research question. Okay. Cool. And as always, you are welcome to contact me if you have any other issues. All right. Thank you. Have a lovely day further. I will see you next class.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye.